Whenever I have people who, worked in this business for a little while, I actually love to go back to the beginning and ask, what was your first job in this industry? Did you start off as a PA on sets? Were you, a writer-director out of the gate?
Yeah, it was kind of right away. I just got my friends together and made a short film out in the desert. And then while I was doing that, I was basically any job I could get, I was doing it. So I've gaffed, gripped, AC'd, PA'd, all of it, which I think is really important, especially when you're directing. You want to know sort of how everything operates and have that, that shorthand with your crew.
Did any of the things you work on ever, go on to prominence, or were they all sort of, helping out friends and low budget?
Yeah, I barely ever got paid. It was yeah.
That's what I was politely trying to ask.
Yeah. I didn't really, no. My wife was like, "You're working for free again?"
They always say, what do you call a producer without a production assistant? You call them a production assistant? I feel like you end up doing everything when you're working in very small budgets. So yeah, working every job on a film set is incredibly important because then you know how long it takes to roll that cable, and then you have 15 minutes to work with actors now because you already know that. It's a really great way to become a filmmaker, is just knowing everything. So yeah, I think my first job was being a PA.
Wow. And you still pretty much work every job on a set. You only took 2 jobs in this. That's lazy.
Oh, Francis was my PA on my last short
I actually
film.
PA'd on his last short. Yeah,
literally.
I love that. Jocelyn, for you?
I started in wardrobe. I was a stylist assistant when I was working. I was working a few jobs, but when I was in college, I was working as a stylist assistant, and then loved just the idea of telling a story through clothes, and that's still important to me when I'm working on a character. And eventually I switched sides of the camera.
Wow, no way. That's
she
so
was
fascinating.
very involved in her wardrobe.
I was gonna
with
ask,
our
honestly.
Yeah, our
Alabama,
costume designers here,
incredible
Alabama.
costume designer.
Incredible, yeah.
Mac, for you?
I got into the business because my middle school French teacher's son was a cinematographer, and she told me what that was.
Really?
And I thought that was very exciting, and he let me come PA once I moved down to LA. So I got to, same as everyone, PA'd on a couple sets through that.
How old were you when you learned what a cinematographer was?
Probably 13, 14.
Really? How was it explained to you? Because I don't think I knew until I was 33.
Honestly, she didn't really know what he did, but he had
so
filmed in a
long.
microchip factory for a music video, and it looked really cool, so she just talked about that. It sounded cool.
I love that. Again, congratulations on a wonderful movie. I want to start at the beginning with Francis, because obviously it doesn't exist without you. There's so many things that I love about this film, one being that it feels like a real throwback to these, gritty 70s thrillers, and yet also very much of the moment. I'm curious, sort of, what was the initial spark or inspiration for this story?
It was really, kind of a two-hander. So it was about finding or writing a story that was a single location, story, much like Rope and Dial for Murder and 12 Angry Men, for budget reasons, right? And then the other part was, I think, before this, my background's music, and I spent a lot of time touring, and I found myself at these sort of roadside diners in the middle of nowhere. And it's that feeling when you walk inside, right? And it's like a fish out of water experience, and you just feel. I'm very neurotic, so I would go in there and I would think everybody knows something that I don't know, and I'm just late to the party. And I think that was maybe the catalyst for what sparked this story. And then I found the location out in Palmdale and sort of wrote everything specifically to the location.
So did you find the location before you wrote the script?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's sort of what I did with my short films. And we had no money, so it's just writing scripts based on locations we had free access to. So when it came time to doing the feature, it was sort of the same process. I looked around for locations in Los Angeles and found 4 aces, took a bunch of pictures, and kind of started writing the script and trying to utilize every inch of that space to tell the story.
I want to talk about your amazing ensemble and from what I believe you told me that nobody auditioned for this movie. You knew who you wanted?
Yep.
Did you know while you were writing?
Definitely Jocelin, 100%.
How nice is that to hear?
Yeah, what a sweet compliment, thank you.
Yeah. And Richard Brake.
He's fantastic.
But yeah, we got very lucky. Our casting director is here, David Guglielmo, who obviously, you see the cast, and he did an amazing job. But yeah, I had a lot of we were both on the same page. We knew exactly what we wanted this to be, and I had sort of this like short list of indie darlings that I had been seeing, and like I saw Sierra McCormick is also here. I saw her in this movie called The Vasta Night, and there's this oneer in that movie. You know what I'm talking about, the switchboard. Yeah. And it just blew me away, and I was like, she can do anything. So we got very lucky. Barbara Crampton is also here. Alex Esso. That's amazing.
It's a fantastic ensemble. And Jim, as I mentioned, you've done every job on movies, from writing to editing to directing. What interested you, on coming on board as, I don't want to say just an actor, but you get to be the lead in a movie and also an executive producer.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm the lead actor in a movie that I wasn't making, so it was incredibly freeing to not have to worry about the edit. That was nice. But really, I read the script and I was like, oh, this could be like a kind of fun Paul Newman, Jimmy Stewart kind of Hitchcockian, Rope or Rear Window or something. And then I was like, oh, it could be very serious. It could be very austere. And I was like, oh, Francis, I hadn't met him before. He wrote the script and sent it to me. I was like, come over and we'll have coffee in my backyard. And then we just talked about South Park for like 3 hours. And I was like, oh, this guy is like my new best friend, and he has a good sense of humor. And then the whole time we were on set, it was just laughing. It was just us like trying to compete with one another as a performer. And everybody's in Video Village kind of watching each other perform. It was just such a fun summer camp experience. I'd do it again. This is the first time I've ever done it, but it's so fulfilling when the film is already crafted beforehand. It's very good.
I mean, does it feel like a vacation for you, only having to lead a film and produce it?
I got to go home every day and not have to worry about the next day. I just had to memorize lines and for my scenes. It was very freeing, yes.
There's so much, though, about, and I'm sure you know this as a filmmaker, the person who's number one on the call sheet really does sort of set the tone for a set. Did you think about, the responsibility of that and the tone you wanted to set?
Oh no, I was so looking up to Richard Brake and Nick Logan and Faison and all Gene Jones, Robin, everybody that was like above us and had worked with incredible directors. So like really so much of our experience at lunch was just picking their brains about what it was like to work in Hollywood for 30 years and be a professional actor. And you realize they're just as neurotic as us, newcomers. It was really, I tried to learn as much as possible. It was a boot camp for me. Yeah. I came in, although I'm the lead actor in the film, I came in feeling like I had missed out on a huge acting education that I should have had before showing up and acting against Nicholas Logan. It was intimidating.
I mean, the real tragedy of your character is that you don't get any scenes with Barbara Crampton.
I know,
right?
actually.
I would be so upset.
And I wasn't even there that day. So like the days that she was shooting, I didn't even get to hang out with her. But we'd been pen pals for 100 years, and then now anyway.
Jocelyn, for you, to hear that a writer wrote something for you, that's got to be amazing. How do you say no? But then it's also an amazing role.
Yeah, I mean, of course that means so much, but it just, the second you read the script, it just jumps off the page, and it's the story, it's the characters, it's kind of all of the elements that were there, and then meeting Fran, seeing what a genuine, sweet, amazing, passionate person he is, and just he's a magnet for people like that, so all of our department heads were just wonderful, like everything just was like bonus on top of bonus. But just ultimately it was the script, it was knowing that Mac was involved. I had worked with Mac on a film previously, and I love your style and I love your work, and so just having that comfortability was really nice also off the bat. And Richard, of course, is just such a powerhouse, and then the chance to work with Gene, and someday I'll have a scene with Barbara Crampton, fingers crossed, and Jim, like just the chance to work with all these people and to work on Fran's vision, which was so specific and cool.
And the film looks amazing, and Mac, I know you were working on a limited budget, so I'm even more impressed by how fantastic it looks. What attracted you to the project, and what were some of the ideas or images that like instantly came to mind when you read it that you might have discussed with Francis?
I would have killed him if he didn't do it. That's
really?
Why, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing it, I think, before he started writing it, because I just had done 2 shorts with him, and I don't know, we clicked into this weird relationship where I can tell him he's screwing it up and it's okay, and he can tell me I'm failing, and we still like each other. Yeah. So I would have done it no matter what. What was it? I guess I've always been kind of in love with the desert, and Francis is very much a city boy, but I think as soon as he started telling me about these scenes of like Miles and Sybil shooting out in the Joshua trees, I was like, okay, this could be a really cool look that I haven't gotten to do before.
Were there certain films that you drew inspiration from, or not even necessarily films, but images, or?
Well, Francis told me about 25 different movies that I had to watch as references, and then I watched like 2 of them.
This happens every time.
Yeah.
I give him a bunch of homework and he doesn't do any of it. But, you know.
No, I think it was the location, honestly. Like,
Really?
I'm much more inspired by seeing the diner and walking through it and thinking like, oh my God, this angle will look great. And I think it was more from that inspired me.
Well, we watched a lot of other things that were shot at this location too.
Yeah,
That's
the lamest way to be inspired is just watching all the things shot in a location and picking your favorite.
Yeah.
That's what you were saying, that this has been used in other films, but really?
Yeah, so much
Oh, you
stuff.
see it
Who
in
here
everything
has
now.
recognizes this diner from other things? Yeah, exactly.
You see it in everything now. There's a bunch of commercials and stuff. It's like, but they always try and make it look like neon and kind of cool. And this is actually shooting it for what it is, which is very deserted.
So
And
it's not a working diner, because this is the kind of place I'd actually love to eat at.
Oh, it was really funny. While we were shooting, people were pulling in to get gas, and we had to be like, "No, sorry, pumps don't work." There's no power, there's no water, there's nothing.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry. What were you
I was just going to say it also, I think we saw these shows where people had shot there, kind of thought it through that way. And then during prep, as Charlie, our production designer, was building out his vision for the world, it really changed. And we're like, oh, we're not just shooting Four Aces again, we're shooting Charlie's Four Aces, and it's a whole new beast. So
Clap out there for Charlie. Woo!
I don't know if you're allowed to discuss budget and shooting schedule, but we know this is an independent film.
Yeah.
At the same time, I do love the idea of necessity as the mother of all invention.
Yeah.
Were there things that you were disappointed you couldn't do, or were other alternatives you found that ended up being even better?
Yeah, it was kind of, there was a lot of things that at first we saw as a problem, or like, I wish this thing wasn't here. And then you find a way to, integrate it into the story, and in the end you're like, I'm so glad that happened. I mean, there was things that we changed, like there was a stage in the diner that we just could not figure out what the fuck that stage was for. Like it made no sense. So we ended up taking the stage out, and we put a bear in there instead. That's which but yeah, it was just like, anytime we felt like this is the one thing we would change, I would kind of give it some thought and think about how to just incorporate it into the story. So it worked out. Yeah.
I want to go back to this amazing cast, because you all work together so flawlessly, even when you're terrorizing each other. I'm sort of curious if that happened naturally. And Jim and Jocelyn, you probably share the most screen time together. Was that chemistry sort of instantaneous? I'm thinking you probably shot chronologically or close to it.
For that stuff in the beginning, our stuff was very close to the top of the shoot. But then working with Richard, the first time he shouted "Got it" at us, that was in a rehearsal, or maybe we were shooting.
Yeah, we were shooting, yeah.
And we didn't know that he was going to scream at us, and it was incredibly frightening. And we were like, we just kept shooting. That became like, or that tension kept throughout each of the takes. But no, we had rehearsed it in my garage with Francis a couple of weeks before we shot. We kind of like had known each other and seen each other's work, and it was like, oh, this could be a fun thing. This is kind of like this moment of a meet cute in the beginning, and then trauma. So we both knew what we were getting into, and kind of trying to help each other out to make those pegs work for the whole thing. Yeah.
And it was nice to be able to like have those few little scenes at the top, to be able to have that connection, because for the rest of the movie we're in it together, but it's nonverbal. Like we're just looking at each other like, how are we going to get out of this the whole time? And yes, Richard is just the sweetest human being, and also the scariest scene partner. He's incredible.
I really think you have to cast the nicest people as the worst characters, because
Totally.
it would be too real otherwise. That's what I always feel. I'm so glad you said meet cute, because it does. You two do have chemistry, and I know her character's married, but I'm kind of rooting for you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that one moment where she's like, or I say, oh yeah, I'll try and sell you some knives. You come back, and she goes, okay, and I go, okay, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it'll work out for me. I'm an idiot.
Is it challenging, however, I love things set in one location, but is it challenging to be locked in a room with these people for days? For any of you?
No, not for me. It was, you guys, you can speak to it, but it was a blast. Like Jim is, I think we all any of us here in the cast and crew would all say it really did feel like summer camp every day. Like it felt like a family, and it was sad to leave that place, actually, to be honest.
And it felt like a play as well. Like it was just great to all be in the same space. And from my vantage point as Charlotte behind the counter, just to get to watch all these incredible actors, make these roles so vivid and real, it was a delight.
I think I felt the worst for you because you're moving around. Like Jim's at a table the whole time.
The whole movie. I had to sit in a booth. It was awful. I read the script. I was like, "You're gonna make me sit down for 60 pages," and I was like, "Am I in these scenes?" Like, yeah, you're constantly in the background, so you just gotta sit. You gotta sit there. So just sit there. It'll be fine.
Did you actually do the puzzle?
Yeah, and it was actually a functional one. Yeah. It was actually
Charlie, our production designer, actually like reverse engineered that and created that crossword puzzle. Like it's functional.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wild.
Oh my gosh. How long did it take you to solve it?
The whole month. The whole time.
Mac, for you shooting it, and by the way, I keep saying one location. Obviously, it's not. There are these great outside scenes, and I know that has its advantages. But what are some of the challenges of making it fresh?
Obviously, you don't want to do the same shot over and over again. And we were shooting like 70 pages in one spot. We'd like shot list something, go through it, and be like really excited about this shot, and then we're like, wait. We literally do the exact same shot 2 scenes earlier. Like, we can't just keep repeating this. So definitely some trying to keep it fresh. But other than that, just continuity. I mean, you can't really get away with a lot if the lighting's changing a lot because every scene follows the previous one and you've established something. So we had some kind of apocalyptic rainy days in the very beginning of the shoot, which was really tough to, like the shot where they're at the table talking, literally like 40-mile-an-hour winds and rainstorm, everything's falling over outside, and we're just like, no, everything's fine. It has to be sunny because it's going to be sunny tomorrow. So,
and every day we planned on reshooting that scene, and we never did it. So it actually, that's the take in the movie. It's pouring rain outside, but like, it all got fixed in post.
You can't tell at all. Was the audio okay?
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. I think our sound department, Zach, Juan, and Gabe.
But it was biblical outside.
Yeah, they killed it. Yeah.
Frightening. Yeah,
there was literally a moment where all the stands started falling over,
yeah,
and Jim got
yeah.
up from the scene and ran outside and caught a C-stand like as it's falling.
Yeah.
You really are doing everything, or maybe you were just happy to get up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You played
Spring-loaded to get
too.
out of there.
You played mechanic for a day.
Yeah, that's true. I fixed one of the cars.
He fixed the cars. He also carried more sandbags than half of the grip department.
Yeah. Well, many hats. Man of many hats.
Ruthless, Mac.
You had to know in casting, Jim, you were also going to get like an expert on all aspects of filmmaking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah.
I kept my mouth shut a lot. That was the main thing that I had to learn was keeping my mouth shut. But it was really all there. Like you read the script, it's very clear and clean cut, and then to see the overheads that these two built of like where the camera was going to be, where all the actors, the whole movie is very much shot before they shoot it, and then you have to come in and make it feel authentic as an actor. Like so much of the time, everybody felt communal and that they could give a note or talk about something, but really it was all there on the page. I felt very lucky. I didn't have to do any of that thinking.
For each of you, what was your biggest challenge? I love that everyone has seen it, so we can get very specific. You know, what scene or moment did you? And sometimes it can just be like the littlest thing, like making sure you're holding something correctly.
Oh man, my favorite is not my own. It's Nick Logan coming in and ordering 2 coffees, and he does the Texas Longhorns. Instead of that, he goes, yeah, 2. And it's like, oh my God, such a brilliant thing to do. Like, places his history, okay? It's great.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of challenging stuff. Like, obviously the shootout was like, you're shooting 12 characters. I think 12 characters in a room, so that's challenging.
You mean filming 12 characters in a room, but
yeah.
also shooting 11 of them.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was difficult, when you're up against the clock. But I think, like, for me, weirdly enough, the thing I was most nervous about was making sure that the scene was right for the knife the sales pitch. That was the thing where I was like, it was just like, if this doesn't work, I felt like the movie wasn't going to work. You really had to, root for these characters. But you get Jim and Jocelin, and it's there. So all my worries were gone when we filmed that day. So
Did you actually learn about being a knife salesperson?
Oh yeah. YouTube, it's incredible. You just do like
Really?
so much research on YouTube about like actual Japanese knives. I'm not a very good knife salesman, obviously, and so like but it's still, yeah, you have to do all that research. It's very important.
And Francis, I heard you wrote biographies for each character.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys maybe read them?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
Jocelyn, for you, what was the biggest challenge aside from having to lay in a pool of blood for days?
Yeah, it's true. Keeping your eyes closed, like on camera, is a challenge. I mean, I don't know about challenges, but you guys are kind of bringing up like the more technical pieces, which are always fun to like get to work with the whole crew on. Like there were so many dynamic shots, and the oneer, whether it's the knife sales pitch or when Richard Brake comes and sits us down. I just love that environment of like all coming together and trying to nail something. And I think there was 15 takes of when Richard sits us down and threatens us.
That's a lot.
So like just that whole dance is fun and complicated and feels really good when you get it. And of course the same thing with the shootout. Those are like big moments where you only have 1 or 2 takes to get them. So there's always a lot of adrenaline, and it feels good when you get it. So.
This is it's very funny, but it's also very tense in these moments. And I know that you're actors, and it sounds like the atmosphere on set was really fun. But at the same time, your character in particular is constantly in this traumatic moment. And I'm curious if you take that home with you, or if you're able to let it go at the end of the day.
I mean, like we're talking about, there's so many funny people on this set that it wasn't like it wasn't a traumatic experience at all. But of course, like when you're amping yourself up to be in the more physical scenes, you have to come down from it a bit. But everyone is such sweethearts, and everyone's so professional that it was never actually tense.
We felt terrible for Jocelyn because we always shot her coverage at the end of the day because that's when we flipped the world and shot behind the counter, and so everyone's having a really fun time and laughing, and like Jocelyn is trying to stay in character and get ready and it was always the last
8
thing we
hours.
shot.
Yeah.
So she was always like, I feel like I'm missing out on all the fun because I have to be in character, and yeah.
Well, she's hopefully Charlotte is a character that the audience can project themselves onto and think, what would I do in this situation? She's the one we're kind of living through, and the knife salesman, but
Until he takes the money.
yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm still rooting
never.
for him.
We would never. I actually think the only person in that diner who wouldn't have taken the money is Jocelyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, not in character.
Yeah.
Sorry, Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I sense Jocelyn's good too.
Thank you.
Mac, for you, what ended up being the biggest challenge?
I think the most intimidating thing, at least going in, was just like, okay, we have 9, 10, 11 people in the same space. We need to shoot so many different angles to connect them all, and these are all like amazing actors who we don't want to just make sit there all day. I'd done a movie that had only 4 cast in that situation, and that seemed hard. So I was like, this is going to be infinitely harder. But then everyone was really cool, and like Gene Jones was just down to like sit at that table for half the day most of the time. So everyone made it really easy. But I think, we owed it to them to at least do our best and really try to think about how to shoot so that we weren't making everyone sit in this diner that was either way too hot or way too cold all day long. And yeah, that was just a logistical nightmare, basically.
That's so considerate because a lot of filmmakers don't worry about wasting actors' time, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it was, again, this is a low-budget feature, so even with the dead bodies on the ground, that was actually the actors, like, laying, we didn't have money to get fake bodies, so we all felt pretty bad.
Yeah.
Was that hard, or were those nice days where you just got to lay there all day?
I'm so curious, actually. Yeah, how was it?
I feel like, well, there was only one. There was like a half a day where we had to lay on the ground, but it wasn't a full day. I don't think.
And
you
then
guys were very.
sometimes
Yeah, you just made sure if we weren't in it, we didn't have to.
Yeah, they tilted
You
the
were
camera up
specific,
so that
yeah.
we weren't. Yeah. We didn't show the ground. Yeah.
Well, Alex and Sam, I feel like they were laying on the floor outside for so long. Alex, you're here. I'm so sorry about
Yeah,
that.
especially Alex was just getting trampled. Everyone walks around her the whole last part of the movie, so it was very dangerous.
I love the humor in this movie, and sometimes that it's very real in that, like, sometimes I can't believe I'm laughing, or I wonder if I'm the only person laughing. That's why it's so fun to hear it with an audience, and also the way it kind of like you need that release. But it's such a specific tone you have to walk. I'm sure it was in the writing and also the performances. But do you really find it in the final edit? Is it a fine-tuning process?
Yeah, I think it's like, just like every movie, everything it's sort of an evolution of it, right? It's on the page for sure, and then you cast and they put their own spin on it, and then they get in wardrobe and makeup, and then it evolves, and then they get their scene partner, and then it becomes something different, and then you get in the edit and you play with timing and it changes it. But I think on the page, you guys always looked at this as a dark comedy, right?
Yeah, we did the table read and people were laughing.
Yeah.
This will work.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you get like Connor, who plays Gavin, and Nick. It's like, they really took some swings with it, and like I was fucking down. It was so much fun. Yeah.
One of my favorite moments of the whole shoot was we were driving to prep, and Nick Logan, who plays the more oafish bank robber, texted Fran a picture of him in the Bigfoot shirt that he had cropped like just below his nipples. And Fran was like, "Isn't this funny?" And I was like, "That's not like real, right?" Francis was like, "No, it might be. That might be the wardrobe." And I was like, okay, I get the tone better now.
I love the penultimate scene with the couple because it's so painful and funny, and I am curious if you did different variations on it, like ones where he's more serious and threatening, or like he's just so incompetent. It's like
so that's natural for me. It's my natural state. But Francis had written or rewritten that scene only a couple days before, and it's me shouting in a parking lot, which I've done in all of my films. And I was like, "You're gonna make me do this again?" And he was like, "I didn't even think of that, but yeah, you are gonna have to do that." But no, it's so ridiculous. We're talking about Funny Games as like a comp for the scene of us in the booth and Richard holding the gun on us. It's like,
well, I didn't even realize that. He knows how much I love Funny Games, and like whatever direction I was giving you, he goes, "Funny Games."
"Oh, this is Funny Games."
And I was like,
he's like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
But like we constantly took a scene and it was like, "Oh, this is a hostage situation. How does this actually play out?" It's like it's uncomfortable. If the gun doesn't fire, can I go? "Oh, stay right there."
Yeah.
Like what? You've lost all the power in this situation. Like what are you talking about? And I'm still trying to control the situation. That's funny, but it was just we were doing it and I was like, yeah, do that. It felt like we were trying to make something for an audience that was going to get it. Like I feel like if you were going to do a modern like neo-noir western and it was just austere the whole time, people would be bored by it. I feel like people get the genre, and if you can do something like say the title of the film and cut it off halfway through, people will laugh at it because they get what you're doing,
I have to admit, part of me chuckled because I just couldn't believe almost the absurdity when I heard the baby crying.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't believe you did the opposite of Save the Cat. You orphaned a baby. I was just like, and yet we still like this guy. I don't know why that is.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
It is funny. If you cast Tom Hanks in the role, and he's a really unlikable person, like Road to Perdition is a very unlikable character, but because it's him, you're like, oh, I hope he does well. He didn't really mean to abandon that baby in the desert. I'm sure he had good, he was good meaning behind that.
I did kept thinking up until the very end that things might work out for him.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry we're out of time because Francis was actually going to tell us all about Evil Dead, but unfortunately. Out of time. I do want to remind everyone that this movie will open both in theaters and digitally next week. Please spread the word. It's such a special film. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Janelle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle.